Hi, I'm Angie, and today I'm in the craft room because I wanted to share my latest quilt with you. This is called my Far From Perfect Points Quilt Along, and I took part in the quilt along put on by Connecting Threads, which is a great company that sells fabric and threads and tools and all kinds of things for quilting. And they have a lot of free patterns and free quilt alongs that are just great to follow along with. You learn a lot. So I can't say this was an easy one to do. Up till now, when I have made quilts that have points in them, it's really a crapshoot whether or not the points turn out. I didn't really know how to do it. I just sewed the seams together, nesting the seams and hoping for the best. So the object of this class was to learn to make perfect points, but it didn't really work out that way. They were probably a lot better than I did before, but they are far from perfect, and that's the name of the quilt. As you can see, it's a sampler quilt, and there were a lot of different blocks that we had to complete. It was kind of a miracle they went together in the end. I probably picked apart each block at least 2 times, if not 3 times, trying to make it work out better than it had the first time I tried it. Once I assembled the quilt, I was very happy that it actually even went together because I didn't get the finished size of block. I don't think maybe in one block I got the right size, so it was a challenge to get it together. But once I put the border on, the inner border and the outer border, it really came together, and I just love this inner border fabric. It's so pretty. When it came time to quilt this quilt, it was a bit of a challenge for me because there are so many different patterns and styles. At first I thought I would do a nice overall meander because the nice curls of the meander would counterbalance all the points in the blocks. Once I sat down at my machine and started to do that, I realized that that would cover up a lot of the points in the blocks, and that probably wasn't a good idea. At the same time as I finished this quilt, I started taking the machine quilting course on Craftsy, and I thought I would try and incorporate what I'd learned there into the quilt. So I started by doing some micro stippling here, which I kind of learned from Leah Day. Then I also used a template to draw these hearts in the middle and quilted on top of those. That went pretty well with free motion quilting. Then I knew I wanted to try the walking foot, so I followed along the lines that were already in the fabric. And then I free motion quilted down the columns with some leaves to echo the leaves that are in the fabric. But I found as I did each block, if I free motion quilted, then I got frustrated with that and I'd switch back to the walking foot, and if I used the walking foot, then I found I was confined and I didn't like that, so I'd switch back to the free motion foot. So I really went back and forth, wasn't very efficient, and it took me a long time to quilt because I kept jumping around. And the problem is when you're learning something new and you're doing it on a quilt, if you make a mistake, then when I used my free motion foot, the stitches were so small they were virtually impossible to pick out, so I was kind of stuck with it. And after the point where I got frustrated, then I sort of half gave up and just thought, okay, I'm going to do whatever I want in any square, just not worry about how it looks and hope for the best at the end. Once I washed the quilt, it puckered up quite a bit, but it didn't hide as many mistakes as I had hoped. So I can show you close up. The flying geese, I pretty much stitched in the ditch around all the motifs. I kind of did that with everything first and then went in and filled in. I tried some channel quilting here with my walking foot. I did some free motion sort of zigzags here in the background to make the pointed star pop up. This is a wine glass design. Didn't really work out that great, but was fun to try and learn. I'll get better. I just did some walking foot X's on this bear claw. Like I said, some semi-micro stippling there and a drawn template design. For the pot on the basket block, I did some stippling, and then just to get it done, I did some curlicues, which they worked out very well, but I actually don't really like that design too much. It just looks messy to me. One thing I really did like about this quilt was the finishing. So Wendy Butler Burns on the Machine Quilting Craftsy course likes to machine finish her binding, and I have done that before, but pretty much usually hand bind now. So I used the walking foot to do a very close edge, and that finished it off very nicely. And then on the back, I did use cotton thread. Sometimes I hit the binding, which is desirable, and sometimes it kind of went off the binding, and Wendy says she likes to use clear monofilament in the bobbin, and then it doesn't show, but I didn't want to use that. I want to use cotton thread. And I also used a template to draw like a cable down the outer border, and that turned out very well, and I was quite happy with that. I tried it first with the walking foot, but this is actually quite a tight cable, So that didn't work out too well and I got frustrated, so I took it off and put the free motion foot on and just whipped right through it, no problems. One other thing I did differently on this quilt was I added a pocket sleeve for hanging it up. And that's the first time I had done that. I didn't have enough leftover fabric to do a double pocket like Wendy recommends. So I did a single pocket and I finished the edges. And then I just stitched it right under with the binding. So that's nice. It's completely hidden and finished there. And then I just used a hand blind stitch to finish the bottom edge of it. And that allows you to put a rod through there and hang it up on the wall. Thanks for watching, and I just wanted to share my Far From Perfect Points sampler quilt with you.